I need to see if there is Jupiter, I need to see if there is Saturn. So if there's Saturn here, in most cases I see, practically I've seen, that people usually go for partners who are elder to them, by 5 years or more. Or they go for partners who are from a very different background. Many cases I've seen it's both. It's people who are both partners who are elder, age difference, and cultural background difference. So this kind of thing happens. If they have Venus here, these kind of people are looking for pleasure. So they are the pleasure-seeking type. So they are the ones who would be very inclined towards having extramarital stuff. Maybe it's not general. So don't look at your better half. It's not generic, but yes, these are tendencies which could be seen. Somebody has a Rahu here. Somebody who has a Rahu here might have someone who's a foreigner as a spouse. There could be a strong inclination to marry someone who's a foreigner. Or they get married in a foreign country. This kind of stuff can happen. So these are just examples, and then we have career, 10th house, we have earnings, 11th house, we have money, 2nd house. So depending on what planets sit there and where these houses are connected. If someone's house of career is connected with the house of marriage, maybe end up marrying the boss, or maybe end up marrying someone at workplace, or may start working with the spouse as a business partner, something like that. If the house of mysteries, 8th house, is connected with, say, the house of earnings, money, so that person can be an astrologer, make money. So there are different ways in which we have to look at these charts, and this is what I teach when I teach astrology. So this is just to give you an idea.
What do you mean by connected?
Yeah, suppose this house, are you asking me technical?
I mean, you said if this house is connected to this house, so what do you mean?
So actually what happens is there's an owner for this house, which I won't share the terminology because it will be a bit complex, but there's an owner for this house, and let's say Jupiter is the owner of this house, and Jupiter is sitting here. Then this connects the house of work with the house of marriage. There's a connection established between the two. So these people will see that they usually find their partners at workplace, or they find that they are working with their partners. All these sort of things can happen. Though there are finer gradations which have to be seen. It's not black and white, So there are houses, there are owners, there are different concepts like that. So somebody can, own a house can have a house in Goa, but he's sitting in Gurgaon. So the owner is creating a connection between Goa and Gurgaon. So it's like that. So these kind of very interesting concepts, simple concepts which can tell a lot. And over a period of time, when you keep seeing charts, when you keep seeing examples, you kind of start developing an inner compass as to what the chart is trying to say about the person. It's not going to deter you, but it's going to show you more possibilities in the areas which are strong. So it's going to tell you which are the paths of least resistance. Where is it that you can go in the higher gear, So that is the very strong point about looking at charts. That is why I would look at my chart, to know what is the potential. Like recently, I'm an engineer, I work for IT companies, I work for engineering colleges. Recently I have discovered that real estate is something that will make me big money from my chart. Because the 2nd house, the house of resources and assets, is connected with the 10th house. And funny enough, I got a couple of sort of potential deals just before I discovered that. So I've started believing that actually.
They're waiting for someone to sell to millions.
Yeah. So you can discover a lot of hidden things about yourself from this. Okay, so let's move to something else, mapping different areas of life. So we can see everything, this is like a matrix which can show all areas of life. Cool. So, what happens when you go to an astrologer? Has anyone been to like 5-6 astrologers in their life? क्या होता है? what happens?
Confusion. Confusion. That's the more confusion.
More confusion, fear. What
All
else?
the different stuff. Nobody is like, they're not on the same page ever.
Everybody is different. You go to one.
Yeah, we'll say it.
Yeah.
I think it's a way they interpret the chart which is not right. I mean, different
Okay.
people interpret it differently.
Yeah.
The interpretation is different.
Yeah, so there's one approach which is fatalistic, which says that ye hoga, that will happen, this will happen, these kind of things. You're going to die at this age, you're going to suffer from this disease, and so on. But there's another approach, which is the more modern, which is the more evolutionary approach. And that is about seeing. So, have you heard of this term called shunya? Shunya means zero, But shunya is also the spiritual term when we talk about Buddhist philosophy, when we talk about Buddhism. They say, to achieve shunya is to merge with the eternal or become zero. So everything comes from shunya. Everything comes from this eternal, primordial source of nothingness. So, and then it takes form. So from the formless, the form comes, and then it kind of starts playing out. So there are two terms with which I always describe spirituality. One is shunya, the other is lila. So shunya is nothingness, lila is the play which comes forth through this nothingness. And that is why I appreciate Indian mythology a lot, because it has all colors, It has a Ravan who is given the same respect in some way as the protagonist. So there are different characters, and everyone has their strong points, everyone has their special features. So the archetypal drama that we are supposed to play in this life is what is reflected in your chart. It's your part of the script in the play of life. So it's your piece, this is what you're going to play. And there's a big orchestra going on. Maybe your wife just wants to play a complete dissonant note. And maybe your friends want to play some other notes, So it's all about how these things fall in harmony. That's when you get music in your orchestra, which is soothing. That's when you have a play which is engrossing. And every play needs some amount of conflict. So everyone is playing their part in this, and they have their own psychological traumas, dramas, they have their baggages, and all that, in a sense, you can see it when you look at astrology charts. And I'll show you some charts as we go along. And it's also about the homework assignments, because if we're working with Indian philosophy, so it's a lot about reincarnation. We believe there is some past life, or at least there's a past which is connected with our present. So there is a lot of lessons, there are certain assignments that we are come to learn in this life. So if you look at it from a very spiritual perspective, it means these are the homework assignments with which we have come. So the more we are aware of our homework assignments, it's just that we have forgotten. The more we are aware, we try to complete them quicker, And as we complete them, or as we start owning them, we start moving into greater freedom. So actually astrology for me is like a science for freedom. It's becoming more and more free, more and more unbound. Because when you can tap areas that have potential, you don't need to struggle, you're just going to flow. It's like going on the Ganga, and rafting from Shivpuri to Rishikesh city. You just kind of float. Of course there are challenges on the way, but it's much easier. Things almost go as if they are on autopilot. Okay. So do you believe in astrology? Does it make sense? So a lot of us, we ask about belief, Do you believe in astrology? But what I feel is that it's essential to see whether it works for you, whether it makes sense, whether it's giving you useful information, useful ideas, and then we kind of look at it, whether you believe it or not. There's no question of belief. It's not a religion, it's not something abstract, it's something which tells you about your life. So if it's saying something sensible, then yeah, please go ahead and look at it, Do you know this gentleman?
Yeah.
Who's he?
Party.
Mr. Rafal? So, Mr. Manohar Parrikar, ex-Defence Minister of India and Chief Minister of Goa, late Chief Minister of Goa. So this man had a very interesting chart about which I did a video maybe in December, and I could understand that even though he was taken to America last year and he was given some of the most cutting edge treatments connected with, he was supposed to be diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. So he was given some of the most cutting edge treatments in America, and his doctor's team had flown from Goa along with him. So it was like a big mission, to kind of save this man, who in turn had to save Goa, who in turn had to save India. But when I saw his charts in December, I didn't have much hope about this great mission. So let's look at what happens in his chart. So if you look at this chart and we look at his 9th house, can you see the 9th house which is circled here? This one? Yeah? The 9th house is circled. So there's somewhere here. So you can see Sun, Rahu, Moon and Saturn. 4 planets in the 9th house.
Eighth house.
No, it's not 8. 8 is the zodiac number. You can see 9th on the side, on the other side. Yeah, I've been doing this for a while. Yeah, so 9th house is written on the side. 8 is the zodiac, Scorpio. Scorpio zodiac is the 8th zodiac. So if you look at Manohar Parrikar, he started his life as an RSS guy, and RSS is about religion. It's a religious philosophy. And the 9th house exactly stands for religion, it stands for philosophy, it stands for destiny. So he was already tapping into a 9th house theme. He was very connected with this religious philosophy of the RSS. And when we look at it, there's also Sun in the 9th house. So there was scope for leadership because Sun is about leadership. And you can see 4 planets there. So it makes him very strong when it comes to dealing with the zodiac Scorpio. And Scorpio is all about secrets. It's about going deep into subjects, dealing with them, analyzing them. And if you see, all those planets are actually looking at his 3rd house. All those planets from the 9th house are looking at his 3rd house, which is the house of communication. So he was like a very powerful communicator. So in the Goa assembly or even in the parliament, there was no one who could, debate with him or beat him in any way, because he was well researched, he was very well aware of the facts. So his research element was so strong because of 4 planets in Scorpio, 4 energies, it makes it very strong. And you can see that Jupiter, I've circled here, Jupiter is in 6th house, the house of health. So he started off with diabetes, he started having things connected with pancreas, which is indicated by Jupiter in the 6th house. Because Jupiter is the planet for expansion, Jupiter is the planet for unwanted growths, unwanted growth. So it's expanding parameters like high sugar, like high levels of certain body parameters. So we found that he was having something connected with his pancreas, and so this was quite indicative of that. And we could see that Mars is in his 8th house. So this is a person who became the Defence Minister of India, and Mars is the warrior. So he became Defence Minister of India when his Mangal, the Mars Mahadasha started. When the period of Mars started, he became the Defence Minister of India. And 8th house, surprisingly or not surprisingly, is the house of secrets. It's the house of this thing. So one of the biggest defense, I think Rafale is one of the biggest, probably you guys know better, but Rafale is one of the biggest defense #scandal, isn't it?
Yes.
Scandal or what? Scam? Whatever you call it. Yeah, it's a big scam and it's something secretive, no one knows what happened. So he was involved in that. Maybe he was involved, I don't know. But it happened when he was the Defence Minister of India. And Mars is looking at the 2nd house, which is the house of which is the house of speech. So this is the man who was very aggressive in his communication, very aggressive with his tone. So I think he even made a statement saying that Mr. Advani is a rancid pickle, you know. He made this statement in the media. And this was, this was the kind of approach he had, very aggressive approach. Because Mars is in the 8th house, looking at the house of speech, the 2nd house. So a lot of these things, and we see that Venus is in his 10th house, Mercury is in his 10th house. So definitely someone was perceived as very charming, someone was perceived as very intelligent. He was an IIT engineer, but he didn't pursue engineering. He did something else. He did something totally different, and he was into business, he was into politics. So this is one of the charts where I said that maybe January and February 2019 are going to be really difficult months for him, and April and May are going to be really difficult. So these are the 2 periods which will be really hard for him to survive through with that kind of terminal illness. And as things happened towards the end of March, we saw that he is no longer with us. And also very interestingly, Saturn was passing through Saturn was doing a Sarasati. So Saturn was going through Sagittarius, the box which has Venus and Mercury. Saturn was going through that. So it was crossing 2 planets in his 10th house. So what I said was, even if he survives, he's not going to remain in power. He's not going to be the chief minister, even if he survives. Because in his house of power, in the 10th house, in the house of work, in the 10th house, there's something difficult happening. So it's very hard for him to be in power anymore. Okay, do you know this gentleman? A lot of us go to astrologers and they tell us, Shani Mahadasha aa gayi aapki, Sarasati aa gayi, and people get freaked out, and they start wearing neelam and they start doing all sorts of stuff, But this gentleman, he had his biggest hit movies. Actually, his mom sent him for an audition. He wanted to audition. I think many times he came back. He came back from the audition theater. So it's someone who's not naturally extrovert, who's not naturally wanting to act and be in the limelight, but he had this wish to express himself through acting. His mom sent him for some auditions. He just came back, and then one day she told him, I don't know what she told him, but that was the Guru Mantra she told him. She told him something that made him actually go and audition. And this audition happened when he entered the Shani Mahadasha. Zanjeer happened when he was part of Shani Mahadasha. Sholay happened when he was part of Shani Mahadasha. All his hits happened when he was part of Shani Mahadasha. And then better periods came later, but he didn't do movies better than that. So let's look at, so there was a fated day, 26 July 1982. This man who has 4 planets in the 8th house. Now if you go to an astrologer, they will say, oh, 4 planets, Dushtan hai, 8वें घर में बैठे हुए हैं, 4 ग्रह. You will get, they will give you the most negative kind of reading. Because you can see in his birth chart, the inner circle is the birth chart. Let me just point it out. The inner circle is the birth chart. So he has 4 planets almost at the same degree, overlapping each other. I think they're 3 or 4. Here, in his 8th house, which is the house of disaster, which is the house of death, which is the house of all sorts of upsets. And he has 3 planets, 4 planets there. So presumably he had a very difficult childhood. And Saturn was crossing all those 3 planets on the day when the accident happened in the movie called as Coolie. And it was quite a fatal accident. Saturn was crossing 3 planets in the 8th house. So this shows that, of course he saw some very good stuff, but he also saw literally something that was life challenging. And of course, later he survived also. He had the blessings, he survived. So 8th house is the house of sudden, it's the house of sudden events. And suddenly he met with this accident, completely almost deathbed situation, and then coming back in full power. So, and all of this happened in the Shani Mahadasha. It happened in the Saturn period. And Saturn is in his 4th house. So his mother was, 4th house represents the mother. So his mother was very instrumental in wanting him to act, encouraging him to get into acting. So this chart makes a lot of sense to me in the sense that difficult periods need not be, need not bog you down. It's just that it's what you make out of it. And Saturn represents discipline. So he worked with discipline, he worked with a lot of his limitations, but he was focused. Saturn represents focus, it represents hard work. Anyone in Shani Mahadasha here? You're the next. Big B. So, yeah, and many celebrities, many famous people, they have achieved the most success during Saturn. Because Saturn has directional strength for commitment. People who have Saturn in the house of marriage, 7th house, they are great partners to have. And I'm saying that because I also have it, but if your partners have this, you could definitely you could know that they are very committed. And yeah, so we can look at these kind of charts. So this is something I just wanted to point out. Are you getting bored, or do you want to do something more interesting? Yeah? Okay. So could you give me anyone is courageous enough to give your birth details and we can say something about your life?
We have one.
Oh, okay, but she's done a lot of astrology in her life.
I don't have my birth time. I can give you my birth date.
That will only help me to wish you.
See, this is the problem.
Oh, that was good.
I'll give you mine.
I'll give you mine.
Oh, sorry. Carry on. No.
I've never done it.
Okay.
Yeah, carry on.
A lot of Shurveer kind of characters. Okay, let's see. Let's see what makes her bold enough to share this in a Bhari Sabha. Yeah, what's your good name?
Jyotika. So Jyotika.
Okay. Date?
10/11/77.
10 November?
Yeah.
Okay. Time?
7:13 a.m. 1:13.
Oh. Excellent. The India
Yeah, India.
place?
New Delhi.
She has also 4 planets in one house.
Yeah, 4 planets in the 12th house. So definitely someone who's quite spiritual. Definitely has a big spiritual quotient. And these kind of people, and 12th house is again, if she goes to a traditional astrologer, he's going to freak the daylights out of her, saying you have so many planets in 12th house. Ye durbhagya hai, ye dushthan hai, all this kind of stuff. But these kind of people who have so many planets in the 12th house, that's what I can see right now. And so many planets in 12th house means this person has a very strong pull towards, 12th house is the house of suffering, but it's also the house of isolation. So this person, I can definitely say, has seen a lot of suffering, has seen a lot of, no?
Not yet.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, so what will happen is this kind of person, and these people, because 12th house is the house of isolation, it can make people, want to escape. It can make people want to isolate themselves. They want their inner peace. They are looking for connection with the superconscious. So while the 12th house is the house of the superconscious, connection with God, connection with the higher power, 8th house, you can see her 8th house with Jupiter in there, number 3. So Jupiter is there, so she's going to make a great astrologer because her intuition is very strong. Jupiter in the house of intuition. Jupiter is the luckiest planet in the house of intuition. And yeah, and not so surprisingly, she's also going through a Shani Mahadasha. So these are the kind of things. Do you have any question you want to be answered? Okay.
I've never been to an astrologer, so I have no idea.
Okay.
What I'm
Yeah. And she again has Mercury in Scorpio, which is again governing astrology, it is governing intuition. What I would say is that seeing astrology charts is only a way to spark your intuition. But there are people, sometimes our mothers, sometimes some random woman on the street, like anyone, they just say something which is so resonating, which is so true, and it comes from their intuition, it comes from their gut feeling. And we spark that gut feeling by looking at these astrology charts. It's a more analytical way to reach there. So this person definitely has a very strong intuition. So if she tells you don't do something and something is coming, then you better not do it, and you just believe her, So this is an interesting chart, and definitely someone who is strongly connected with spiritual quotient, religious quotient is very strong. Someone who's deeply spiritual, not only externally religious, deeply religious, because the first house lord, Scorpio, Mars, is sitting in the 9th house, the house of destiny, the connection. Yeah. So let's look at. She is inherently spiritual. So
She's denying being spiritual.
But I've never been. I'm
Yeah,
not
so,
spiritual at all. But the one thing is,
how
I'm
does
very
one
strong
correlate it?
intuition. So everything in my life is just based on my intuition, and it's never been wrong.
Maybe you could also explain
that's what
what
he said.
spiritual means. What does being spiritual actually mean?
Yeah, being spiritual, what I would define it as connecting with some higher source and being able to channel that. It's not necessarily going to a temple and doing something.
That's
But-
religious. That's not spiritual. Going to a temple.
Yeah, I don't know. That's how I define it. That spiritual is when you can connect to some higher source.
So the intuition that she has comes from being spiritual.
Yes, very much. Yeah. And she has seen a lot in life, but generally what happens is when people see a lot in life, they, it was like me. Till I did my first reading, till I did my first astrology reading, I thought, my life is quite good. But then my astrologer, and who became my astrology guru and teacher afterwards, he pointed out that you've been going through shit, man. And it's actually...
Can I object actually? Till now, actually, my life has been 10 on 10 perfect. So I can't understand.
That's what I used to say.
No, but it really is. I mean, I can't wish for anything more. So
Yeah, you don't wish because you have a high spiritual quotient. It's all perfect for you. Yeah. Okay, so...
Maybe somebody else.
No, nothing is going to happen. Whatever has happened has already happened. So...
how do we not understand?
That's what I used to say when for my first.
Completely denying it.
No, it's not going to happen.
There's no match.
That particular Rashi, I don't believe.
No, it's not like that. It doesn't work that way. It's about... We'll come to that point.
Astrology is like
Yeah.
Excuse me, is this as simple as looking at these 4 planets in a particular
No,
house?
it's not.
Because there's so many other
There are
planets.
so many other things, that's correct. There are so many other things. So whatever comes first is what I'm looking. But definitely, yeah, I think she is someone who's got a strong intuition about things. So that is what she also agrees with. So let's look at some... Do you want to look at more charts or... Yeah, okay, let's look at somebody else's chart. Is there anyone who's looking for a soulmate, who's looking for something to happen in their life?
Sure.
Is there anyone who's looking like for a soulmate or something to do with, like looking for a partner or a certain kind of job or something like that? Aspirational. Because it's too less time for me to see and, be on the stage and see and do something which is more psychoanalytical, but it's definitely we can look at career, we can look at marriage, we can look at soulmates. So anyone wants to share something connected with that? No, there's nothing to be scared because sometimes when you know that astrology charts have something which is perceived to be commonly negative. I never said it's negative, but if it is perceived to be commonly negative and you know it's there, you actually know that you are up against a real challenge. And then you don't blame yourself for what's not going right. So it's a very realistic way of approaching things. So anyone wants to share their details? Or I can show some other charts. Do you want to share your details? Don't be scared, I'm not revealing the last testament of your life.
I'm not too sure about time, but I can just give you what I think.
Are you approximately sure about your time?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What about the time thing? Because by minutes,